image of the flow of water came in at the initial phase of the project, where we're thinking about, this meeting point between sweet water and salty water. We're thinking of that estuary as a metaphor for humanity, as a metaphor for the encounter, and a metaphor for negotiation, right? So when sweet water meets salty water, the different worlds also, the different beings that live in these different places. But in this space of the estuary, they need to negotiate space. And we wanted to use that metaphor to think of humanity as a negotiation practice. We are of the opinion that we have a lot of problems in the world also because we do not encounter each other. We do not really meet each other. There's a semblance of meeting, but meeting demands each of us recognizing the other person's humanity.
Right now, I have like a constellation of 3 pieces. This, of course, is like the biggest piece here. And it's called an allegorical conglomeration of origins and inevitabilities. So it's an allegory because if you look at it, there's so much, there's many stories that have been put into one. I think it's like a kind of summation of my own journey, as an artist, as a scholar, and as an activist. I grew up from a family that practice agriculture, but also one of my uncles who had a huge influence on me during my formative years was a hunter. And he taught me a lot about, animals. We need to respect animals, okay? So for example, like we shouldn't just kill an animal for the sake of it. You know what I'm saying? If you kill, because these were hunters, right? If you kill an animal, you have to kill it because you are hungry and you need to eat. But if you look critically, they are not just objects, they're symbolic, If you look right there, you have like chocolate jars, but also on the top of it, you have minerals, But at the bottom of this is bullets. Here, there's no title, but this is actually a book by Gugu wa Thiong'o, one of the most prominent anti-colonial academics. There's quite a few things that are common between Brazil and Cameroon. We have a common sort of colonizer with Portugal, because the Portuguese were the first explorers on the coast of Cameroon. So actually the name of our country, Cameroon, comes from a Portuguese name, Cameros. So we do not even own our name. If I become president of Cameroon, I'm changing the name the same day. One of the best ways to heal with the trauma of colonialism is to own your name. You have to own your name. I think there's power in recognizing, our individual and collective identities, and name nomenclature plays a really, really important part. That's why when I title my work, I really think about it, because words have meaning.
The exhibition is kind of crafted in 6 chapters. The first being frequencies of landings and belongings. And the last, which is where we are, the intractable beauty of the world. And the artist's works, the way they spoke to each other, gave us, intuitively what it was all about. But what was very clear was that we wanted to start the exhibition by thinking about the most basic thing of humanity, which is the fact that in the etymology of the word human itself is the word soil, humus. We wanted to start with soil, the essential, in many mythologies in the world, we are made of soil. And whether we like it or not, we go back to soil. So there's an extreme beauty in that, which makes us shift our perspective, that it is not us that own the land, it is the land that owns us.
When I come to Brazil, my entire being responds to the land. All my 5 physical senses, they don't understand the language of nationalism. The biology talks direct to the soil, in my point of view. Nationalism is a form of prejudice because it limits how you can see a person. Yeah, if you look beyond the nationality, you look beyond the categories, it's a human being. It's a walk that invites you to go beyond the limitations of languages, of the spoken language, the languages of nationalism, the languages of economy, and to enter the fields of exuberance. The first piece I made for the walk, it's titled The Estuarine Cantos. You know, it's I say if the visual is not talking enough, the sound is gonna talk to the person. If the sound is not enough, a little bit of poetry is gonna talk. So it's essentially the same thing. As a composer, as somebody who's working with sound, you know, it's very easy to condition the human mind with sound because it's like the art of nomenclature. When you name something, it's a way to limit the thinking. And it's also a way to limit how people feel. We say painting, but a painting is essentially a way to modulate light frequency. So you see different light patterns. When you look at the art, it talks to you, regardless of any categorization. So essentially, that's the kind of the languages which artists, they are talking. I would prefer the viewer to walk and to allow the walk to talk to them. I like the viewer to discover something in themselves. Because if I explain too much, I'm already limiting it.
If we put things in perspective, we see that we're just a small part of a larger being. If you think about the fact that there are stones there in the installation of, you know, Precious, the first artist you see in the show, stones that have been on here for millions of years. And who are we? So small, right? And then you come through the other chapters and you come here and we think of the intractable, the unbreakable beauty of the world, which will exist even if we are not here, which we're doing so much to destroy. But beauty is also political, right? And joy too is political. So one of the greatest violences is aimed at taking away beauty and joy from us. When I'm talking about beauty, I'm not talking about the surface beauty, but the deep beauty of being.